The Pinarayi Vijayan government is in the line of opposition fire. The state has now recorded more than 20,000 cases for the 6th straight day. Opposition is attacking the government for a spike, blaming it on restrictions eased ahead of Eid. Now, Kerala's Health Minister, Veena George, has been quoted saying, avoid crowds ahead of Onam. This is sane advice, but the opposition asks, are these blatant double standards, different standards for Eid and different standards for Onam? Gopi Krishnan Unnithan brings you our top story.
Kerala continues to contribute 50% of India's total daily cases. A worrying matter considering that a third wave could be round the corner. Regarded a model state in the fight against COVID in the first wave, the second wave has been disturbing for Kerala, with more than 20,000 cases reported for 6 straight days until Sunday. Even when the pandemic was raging in the state, the left government in the state lifted curbs for Bakrid, much against the advice of experts. The Supreme Court held the state government responsible for allowing relaxations at a time when cases were only surging by the day. Now another festival, in fact Kerala's most popular one, is coming up. Onam starts on August 12th and ends on August 23rd. While a decision on lifting curbs has not been taken, the state is being more wary this time.
അതിലൊരു കൂട്ടായ തീരുമാനമാണ് സംസ്ഥാന സർക്കാർ എടുക്കുന്നത്. ബഹുമാനപ്പെട്ട മുഖ്യമന്ത്രിയുടെ നേതൃത്വത്തിലുള്ള കോവിഡ് റിവ്യൂ കമ്മിറ്റി ഇത് സംബന്ധിച്ച കാര്യങ്ങൾ എല്ലാവരും അടങ്ങുന്ന കോവിഡ് വിദഗ്ധ സമിതിയും വകുപ്പുകളെല്ലാം അടങ്ങുന്ന സമിതി ഇത് പരിശോധിച്ചിട്ടാണ് ഒരു കൂട്ടായ തീരുമാനത്തിന്റെ അടിസ്ഥാനത്തിലാണ്.
What is worrying the Kerala government is the rapidly spreading Delta variant.
ഇവിടെ നമ്മൾ കാണേണ്ട ഒരു പ്രധാനപ്പെട്ട കാര്യമുണ്ട്. ഇപ്പം എന്തുകൊണ്ട് കേരളത്തിൽ ഈ ഘട്ടത്തിൽ നമ്മൾ കൂടുതൽ ജാഗ്രത പുലർത്തണം എന്നത് സംബന്ധിച്ച ഒരു പ്രധാന കാര്യം ഡെൽറ്റ വേരിയൻ്റ് ആണ് നമ്മുടെ ഈ രോഗവ്യാപനത്തിന് രണ്ടാം തരംഗത്തിൽ കാരണമായിട്ടുള്ളത്. ഡെൽറ്റ വേരിയൻ്റ് വളരെ വേഗം വ്യാപിക്കുന്ന ഒരു വകഭേദമാണ്.
If the state does not allow any relaxations for Onam, August 21st, the most auspicious day of the Onam festivities, is likely to be shadowed by a weekend curfew. The BJP is smelling politics in the Pinarayi government's cautious approach this time.
Whether the relaxations can be related to the festivals, religious rituals, etc., is a debatable question. And I don't agree that all the occasions, all the festivals, and we should provide relaxations. After the premature celebration of the control of COVID cases, now we pay the price for it.
For Bakrid, it was pressure from the trader community that led to the relaxations. Onam is a much bigger festival and the state government is bound to come under stress from commerce. It's to be seen whether faith and markets again prevail over a pandemic. Bureau Report, India Today.
And joining me on India First is Tom Varakan, spokesperson of the BJP. Atikur Rahman is an Islamic scholar. Dr. Harsh Mahajan is the founder of Mahajan Imaging, will give us a medical perspective. And Suneet Chopra is a political analyst and a member of the CPIM. Tom Varakan, why is the BJP accusing the Kerala government of blatant double standards and minority appeasement? The Kerala government has battled the pandemic, perhaps the best, as it argues, and the vaccination process, they are doing better than other states, and they say they're following all restrictions and protocols.
Well, let's look at the background. This whole business of a Kerala model is essentially a brood out of a public relation exercise by a public relation agency. When policy decisions are controlled by people who run a public relation exercise, then you have all kind of labelings. I don't think any state has gone to such a level of public relation. So all that figure that you had, I mean, are questionable. And the fudging has been constant, even whether it was the earlier health minister or the current one. So this now it is a little more blatant because there's a team there and the center has put heavy pressure on them. So this matter stands exposed. And the reality is, before Eid, there was a triple lockdown. And when there's a triple lockdown on the celebration of Eid, you open it up. So it is not just the Muslims coming out, but everybody is on the street because they don't know when the next lockdown is coming. Common sense seems to have been lost in the exercise because they are looking at appeasement. Okay, this is Eid, we do this, so we will get a lot of more votes. The point is, people are suffering. When you open the gates, do you think they come with a Muslim identity? There are Christians coming out, there are Hindus coming out, everybody is out there in the street. And then you see what has happened. 3-4 days later, we have huge cases coming out, and there was no way to control it.
Sunit Chopra, the BJP is accusing the Pinarayi Vijayan government of minority appeasement and blatant double standards. Avoid crowds during Onam, but not during Eid.
You see, the BJP is always good at making allegations. And when the representative of the BJP was formerly a representative of the Congress, I know that the BJP is buying its pigeons and is making them fly in the sky. Now, the point is very clear. If you listen to Ms. Kang, who is a very serious person in this matter, she has stated very clearly that a very small part of the overall picture is dependent on Eid. In fact, more than Eid was the result from Kottayam district, which is a Christian district in Kerala. And I regret to say that Mr. Vadakan should have known that the problem was in Kottayam and not in the Muslim areas to that extent. Secondly, the Eid is a family festival, and there were no big groups of people coming in. It was only for buying
pictures
and
tell a
selling
different
in the
story.
market.
But what about Onam? Pictures say a different story. But what about Onam? No restrictions on Eid, but restrictions during Onam?
I would like to, yes, I understand. I expect this question, and correctly so. I expect this question, and correctly so. Ms. Kang has stated very clearly that in Kerala, one of the reasons why we are seeing this large number of people getting infections is that we have been successful in preventing infection in Kerala for a long time. So a large percentage of the population of Kerala, in fact, was not in any way able to fight back the Delta infection when it came. The second thing that she pointed out very clearly was
my question
that
is very
Kerala
simple.
is paying for its success.
It must be exactly
with
the
a
same
large
reasons for
number of
Eid and
people
Onam.
getting
How can you have
infection.
two standards for Eid and Onam?
No. My point is, you don't have to have two standards for Eid and Onam, but Onam is a different kind of festival. It's a festival of public gatherings.
And Eid is not.
Eid this year was not. No, Eid was not. It's a
Tom
family
Vadakan, you buy that
festival.
argument? Tom
And
Vadakan, you buy that
is
argument
why
before I bring in Atikur Rahman and Dr. Mahajan?
Unfortunately,
it was the
it is-
traders who wanted the Eid
PM
opening.
And traders don't want Onam opening.
is
Traders
living
are
in
very
a
happy.
world-
They've sold all they wanted to sell during Eid. Now they want to sell nothing during Onam.
Traders are no problem.
Sitting in Delhi,
Markets
what
are no
the ground
problem.
reality.
The problem
I
is
said
your
this-
Kumbh
I-
Mela,
I
your
said
recent
this in the
bath,
beginning.
today's bath in
Okay, so
Banaras.
Kumbh Mela is a problem,
You
but
saw
Eid is not a
people
problem.
Without clothes, without
When you
masks,
open the gates,
in the
nobody-
Ganga.
Tom Vadakan wants to respond to
The
you.
Muslims, the Hindus, they all come out. A decision
I'll be
which is
delighted.
no
I know,
application
Tom.
of mind I said that very clearly. Appeasement is your exercise. And you open the gates after a 3-day closure. And what happens? Everybody's on the street. And then, now he says about Kottayam. I'm saying that it happened everywhere. And why did it happen? Because there was no application of mind to the government of Kerala. Because they are interested what the public relation company tells them that yes, the Muslim votes are be affected. For 3 days, they opened the gates for everybody. It was not just for Muslims.
No, it has nothing to do with the Muslim vote.
Okay. Well, we are putting out those numbers on your television screen for your viewers, for our viewers to see. And COVID clearly, Atikur Rahman, I'm sure.
The numbers are high because the Kerala cycle of infection
and it will go low during Onam or it will stay high? No, Atikur Rahman, is there merit in the BJP saying that this is blatant minority appeasement of the Pinarayi Vijayan government? Restrictions eased ahead of Eid, then a spike, and now the minister says avoid crowds ahead of Onam. Atikur Rahman.
Gaurav, see, since I do not belong to the political class, I have no qualms, saying that the politicization of the pandemic is far and wide with all political parties, If you say that the Muslims are appeased by the Kerala government, I would point out to the Home Minister's speech and rather an interview wherein he said, somebody pointed out that the Kumbh was a super spreader. He said that where is the Kumbh in Maharashtra and Kerala where there is no Kumbh. So pampering of these religious groups and identities have been very much inherent in our political class. They do
so you concede this is minority appeasement when Eid restrictions are eased in Kerala. You concede it is minority appeasement. It is for minority votes.
I won't say it's appeasement. No, I won't say
it is for minority votes.
I will say it is pampering by all political parties of all religions.
So what you're saying is this is the Pinarayi Vijayan government, pampering the Muslims of Kerala. You concede that point.
As the UP government.
Fair enough. I'll come to all other points because
I agree.
Okay.
I agree.
You agree. It is pampering the Muslims in Kerala is what you're saying, sir. Onam is the next litmus test. But Dr. Harsh Mahajan, is there any logical explanation? You're a doctor, sir. Is there any logical explanation, a medical explanation for easing of restrictions ahead of Eid at a time when the cases were surging and now asking people, do not meet relatives, avoid meeting relatives, avoid going outside ahead of Onam and then saying there is a Delta variant?
Thank you very much, Gaurav, for having me on the show. I don't want to get involved in any politics. And I would say that science, as well as this deadly virus, doesn't know any religion. It doesn't know politics. It doesn't know one party from another. And the fact is that two wrongs will never make a right. The fact that the lockdown was released at a time when the cases were surging can never, by any scientist, be said to be correct, whatever be the reason behind it. And we've seen since then that there has been some surge in cases. And even though Kerala is doing a lot of testing, and 20,000 cases as per that may be said to be not too much. But if we look at the test positivity rate,
yes,
it has been 11-12%. It even, I think, on one day touched 14%. Anything above 10% is really, really bad. So unless the test positivity rate comes down to below 5%, there would be no justification in opening up for any reason whatsoever, be it a festival, be it a religious occasion, be it a wedding or what have you. There is no doubt that one has to balance, lives and livelihoods.
Yes.
But if lives are lost, if you have a surge of cases which leads to a further prolonged lockdown, then even for the traders, it doesn't augur well.
It doesn't augur well for short-term gain.
That they do.
Okay, Suneet Chopra, that's the point. Now, when you talk to doctors, and you must listen to them in the entirety of the situation, sir, 50% of all cases are coming from Kerala.
I did.
Explain the easing of restrictions ahead of Eid, and now talking about forming a committee. Now forming a committee ahead of Onam. Sir, sorry.
No.
You know, the BJP says this is blatant minority appeasement. Atikur Rahman concedes this is pampering Muslims for votes. This is pampering Muslim for votes, sir.
It is not. Please do not spread communalism.
Sir, that is Atikur Rahman saying that on the broadcast, not me, sir.
The Kerala cycle is a cycle that is different.
And that cycle is different during Eid and Onam.
Which is a Christian center.
It's different during Eid and Onam.
No.
If it's not different during Eid and Onam,
it's different during Eid and Onam.
That's the question.
It's the same cycle.
Then that's the question.
The cycle is
why would you remove restrictions during Eid and then talk about curves during Onam?
They successfully prevented the infection from going to everybody before. It's their success that has resulted in this, not their weakness.
Tom Vadakan, respond. Kerala's explanation on the BJP allegation is Kerala has the lowest
This is not Kerala's explanation. This is the explanation of Miskang, who is from Punjab.
Okay, let me get Tom Vadakan to respond to that.
Yeah.
Lowest score in seroprevalence, which means lowest number of people exposed to the infection.
20,000 and counting are the figures. Mr. Sunith has not read those records. And human lives are involved. This is not about Eid. This is not about Eid or Onam. That the Honorable Doctor made it very clear that science is the basis on which we need to rest our case. The Supreme Court has informed them. The government has been taken to task. And the likes of Mr. Sunith, who called me a pigeon. Yes, I'm a pigeon. I'm a messenger of peace. But let me tell you one thing very clearly, Mr. Sunith, that the reality is you are against humanity. This is not about Hindus. This is not about Muslims. You have taken decisions which is a genocide.
One by one.
Gentlemen,
one by one. Let Mr. Vadakan finish his point. Mr. Chopra, I'll come to you, sir.
So
it's
please don't play this dirty game when it is not necessary. Why did you run away from the Congress into the BJP?
That is not the subject of debate. No, Mr. Chopra, can I only have Tom Vadakan and no one else, please?
I know the reason, but I won't state it here.
You have no clue what is happening.
One by one, only Tom Vadakan. Go on, sir.
Triple lockdown, and you go out and declare against the wishes of the Supreme Court, you open up, and then you say that, well, you know, there's a cycle and what have you. And the cycle is also based on what we call in journalism fake stories. These are stories that were planted on the national media. And we all believed it. But the reality is there now for the whole public to watch.
Dr. Harsh Mahajan, does this look like a level playing field to you? There is an apprehension of a third wave now, and this third wave will not see whether these restrictions were lifted during Eid or were lifted or enforced during Onam. Should rules be applied equally? Apply the rules equally, irrespective of religion or festival. Dr. Mahajan.
There's no doubt in that, Gaurav. And the fact is that without COVID-appropriate behavior, if we see Kerala has seropositivity, as was shown by the national testing that was done, of only 40%, as compared to 65 to 70%, which is the case with the rest of the country. That means there are that many more people prone to getting infection.
Yes.
And, it may be right that Kerala has prevented infection from spreading in the community as compared to the rest. But right now, it is in a much worse situation as compared to the rest of the world if we believe these 65 to 70% figures and the 40% for Kerala. So there are more people prone to getting infection in Kerala than there are in the rest of the country. And with the numbers surging to 20,000 a day,
Sir.
there are that many more people who can get infected. So definitely one has to be exceedingly careful.
And therefore, nothing, Atikur Rahman, nothing justifies
I agree with
whether
him.
it's pressure from traders, because that pressure from traders will be there,
It's got
if
nothing
not,
to do with
if
Eid.
not equal, more pressure from traders ahead of Onam, because there'll be more crowds, there'll be more people, unless of course Sunit Chopra's logic is that traders have sold all that they wanted to sell ahead of Eid and now
Don't
they're happy
ask
going
Atikur
home.
Rahman this question.
Why not?
Ask Tom Wadakan this question.
No,
Because
Atikur Rahman, in a truly secular administration,
BJP
it would be
that is
level
talking
playing field
of
for
the
all,
Onam
and
blockade.
restrictions would not have been lifted even ahead of Eid, sir. Atikur
Gaurav,
Rahman.
my limited point is,
It's
all
Wadakan who
political
should
parties,
answer
especially
this.
the ruling parties in the states and the center, they are compromising on the pandemic. No doubt about that. Herein the question is, why can't Tom Wadakan have, 2 points for different this thing? In Maharashtra, the same BJP, which is in the opposition, they are compelling the Maharashtra government to open the local trains, wherein the crowding will be overwhelming. So you cannot have two, double standards, Tom Wadakanji. You'll have to have a national policy. Why are the ruling parties in the state at the center? They are playing with the lives of the people. That's the people of
Tom
India. are
Wadakan,
asking
respond. It's politics first and not India first, and that is why this just keeps getting prolonged. And now we are perhaps looking ahead to a third wave that's going to come up starting mid-August, as some argue, with peak sometimes mid-October.
I concede that the railways and the local passenger trains that are there, it is causing a lot of inconvenience to passengers. If they maintain the protocol, nobody is saying that don't maintain the protocol. Overcrowding has been avoided. The local state government has ensured that. So, you have everything almost open in the state of Maharashtra. We have that in Delhi also. The metros are running. So, if there is a proper precaution taken, we are hearing the voice of the public, because traveling in Mumbai,
Yes.
during the monsoons is a huge nightmare. And the local trains are one way of moving from one part and then if you maintain the protocol, I think that is fair enough. But here nothing happens. You open the gates and you say, okay, you celebrate. The issue is different. Now you come out and say, well, don't visit your family, friends. Onam is a festival that, let me add this, that Onam is a festival celebrated not just by Hindus, Christians, Muslims, they all celebrate it. The trader community is an excuse. They come up and say that, the trader community wanted it open.
Okay.
So if the trader community wanted it open, why didn't they open up earlier? So this joke on the trader community is uncalled for.
Because yes, the results would have been worse.
They have a cause for suffering business. But the reality is,
as
Dr.
Harsh Mahajan said,
realize business depends on the customer's well-being.
Okay, Dr. Mahajan, last 30 seconds to you, sir. Last 30 seconds to you before I move to the other big story. Go on, sir.
Yeah, Gaurav, just to conclude, actually India is a large country and there is a regional asymmetry of the number of cases that are there. So at a state level, at a district level, one has to take a decision based on the test positivity rate and the number of cases that are there. So what may be right in Maharashtra or in Delhi may not be right in Kerala or in Tamil Nadu based on the cases. So you can't have a uniform policy across the country. Of course, you may say that only if it goes below 5% will we open up A, B and C, but at one given point of time, it may be a different norm which is used in Maharashtra and a different norm which is used in Kerala.
Fair enough. I will let that be the last word amidst this allegation of minority appeasement in Kerala. What will the Pinarayi Vijayan government do ahead of Onam? We'll be tracking that story very, very closely. Sunit Chopra, Atikur Rahman, Tom Wadakan and Dr. Harsh Mahajan, many thanks for joining me.